Greetings to all our learners. Welcome to the CEC lecture. The topic of analysis that we shall be looking forward in the study is collective security. This lecture will be of great use for the learners preparing for competitive examinations, research, policy papers, amongst others from the realm of political science, international relations, media studies, amongst others. The lecture shall explain the concept of collective security with respect to the focus on the principles and significance of the concept as a security arrangement. The lecture shall also elaborate on the contemporary challenges for the concept of collective security, that is, namely how security of each member of a collectivity and that of the collectivity are under scanner, are facing challenges due to rise of new issues, new aspects in the realm of domestic and international arenas. Today in the lecture, we shall look on the concept of collective security, issues of security, new forms of threat, and how significant it is to look at the challenges to the concept of collective security with respect to the aspect of international peace. At the outset, let us understand what do we mean by the topic of collective security. Collective security, dear learners, is seen as a system by which states have attempted to prevent or stop wars. It's seen as a mechanism, namely wherein an aggressor against any one state, this aggression is considered as an aggressor against all other states. It acts together to repel the aggressor. Important here to highlight that how it contrasts with the retaliatory strategies of engaging in war for immediate national interest. Collective security, as we are taking the reflections from this ongoing discussion, collective security, it is a system of international security in which participating nations agree to take joint action against a nation that attacks any one of them. An important definition that we get from popular Google search, that is by Palmer and Parkins, collective security clearly implies collective measures for dealing with threats to peace. So what we are seeing here is that we now come to the important segment of the lecture, namely what are the principles of the concept of collective security. We all know that security is one of the important concerns for all nation states, both at domestic and at global level. With respect to it, the approach to have a collective response, solidarity with threats and breaches of peace together. So therefore, the underlying principle of collective security has been one for all and all for one. When we look at the nature of collective security in international relations, we all know security is one of the important goals of nations. Security, as we say, it is the chief goal that all nations strive to achieve. When we look at the actions, when we look at the threats, the power of the aggressor has to be met by collective power. These are some of the binding values, the idea of getting together to attain the goal of security that defines the nature of collective security. So therefore, as we looked at the principles, as we looked at the nature, the next aspect that comes forward in the learning here is what are the features of collective security. What we find that collective security in the realm of international relations, it's an important power management tool. Collective security is an effective deterrent against a state with aggressive designs. Then the very idea of getting together with each other, coming up with some kind of institutional mechanism presupposes the existence of an international organization. When we look at security with respect to state and international relations, dear learners, we all know security is very important. Security is indispensable for states. States also need to protect themselves from threats. Security, therefore, is a primary issue of international relations. Then states' perceptions about threats and with respect to safety today are being redefined also. So as we take the learning forward, an important aspect that comes forward here is that how does one then look at the similarities between collective security and balance of power. We all know collective security and balance of power are important concepts in international relations. Collective security and balance of power both have similarity in methods. Both are defensive in nature. When we read clearly between their various features and methods, somewhere they accept war as a means of conducting negotiations in global reality. They accept the presence of will to end aggression. Similarly, there are striking differences also between the concept of balance of power and collective security. Now, by the very definition, balance of power as a concept of power, military might, we all know that how power is unevenly distributed, that is somewhere no single state is able to dominate the others. Collective security, on the other hand, signifies an arrangement where several states get together, commit to defend any member state with a collective response. So herein, when we look at this distinction between balance of power and collective security, it is very essential to see that how in the past the concept of collective security was important, but today there are lots of challenges for the concept of collective security. We read from this perspective presented by Palmer and Perkins, that is how effectiveness of collective security is dependent on certain factors. And as we read, quoting Palmer and Perkins, a collective security system to be effective must be strong enough to cope with aggression from any power or any combination of powers, and it must be invoked if and as aggression occurs. As we are taking the learning forward, in the next aspect we will focus on how collective security is different from collective defense. As we talk about collective defense, dear learners, we all know that the UN Charter, when we read through UN.org archives looking at the UN Charter, it recognizes collective self-defense. Now, with the end of the Second World War, world sees the rise of the Cold War, and one also sees military alliances coming forward. An important military alliance was that of the NATO, the Mutual Defense Obligation, as we read through the Article 5 of the Washington Treaty. The concept also states that NATO may take action to deter and defend against any threat of aggression. So, in this case, what we see, once again reading from important search that we got online from history.state.gov, that is how today NATO has nuclear, conventional, missile defense capabilities. And in this perspective, the idea of collective defense as enshrined in the Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, that an attack on one ally is considered as an attack against all allies. Once again, very important search that we got from history.state.gov, that how the principle of collective defense is enshrined in Article 5 of the Washington Treaty. The collective defense arrangements is made by a group of nations who have common perception of a threat to their security, say from a common enemy. On the other hand, in contrast, collective security, it forms the foundation, as we saw, of international bodies such as the United Nations. Reading from Article 39 of United Nations Charter, the Security Council shall determine the existence of any threat to peace, breach of the peace, or act of aggression, and shall make recommendations or decide which measures shall be taken in accordance with Article 41 and 42 to maintain or restore international peace and security. As we are trying to understand United Nations and collective security, dear learners, to add more to the research, we take reference to this book by Gary Wilson, The United Nations and Collective Security, Routledge 2014. We all know that the role of United Nations in collective security has been evolving since its inception in 1945. When we look at the legal framework provided by the United Nations Charter, and as the book also points out, that how collective security ensures that the primary responsibility of maintenance of international peace and security is very important. This work by Gary Wilson then analyzes that when we look at military enforcement, military actions, peacekeeping missions, non-military sanctions, various other tools of diplomacy, one can see that how UN's use of this concept of collective security as a tool, as we said in the beginning of the lecture, as a power management tool has been in practice. Another important perspective, as this book points out, that how prohibition against interstate threat or use of force, as we read from Article 2, Clause 4 of UN Charter, the primary organ of United Nations for the maintenance of international peace, that is the Security Council, and how with sovereignty centered approach to collective security, how United Nations has worked this concept of collective security as an important tool with respect to international relations. Now, when we are talking about international relations, we also one must look at the IR history. So, therefore, dear learners, when we look at collective security with respect to the bigger picture of IR history, one can outline 4 distinct periods, namely the post First World War scenario, wherein world finds the establishment of the League of Nations, the post Second World War scenario, wherein one finds the signing of the UN Charter. Then during the Cold War, and most important, that how in the post Cold War era with post 9/11 attacks, there was huge change with respect to the idea of threats and security for global governance. An important book that we take reference to elaborate further on the concept of collective security is that by of George W. Downes, Collective Security Beyond the Cold War, University of Michigan Press, 1994. Now, when we look at the proponents, as the book points out, that the 2 world wars and other tensions of global realities, collective security was then an inevitable step in human evolution, a basic prerequisite for long-term stability and peace. But then, as the book also points out, that looking at the critical side, that is that how today when we look at collective security, critiques point out that it is a pipe dream, historically and theoretically not useful. This book, which is an edited work, it has essays, it evaluates the potential of the concept of collective security. And as we go through the various essays, one finds a very important idea, that is the factors limiting the potential of collective security system. They are no different from those that limit the potential of other forms of state collective action, namely alliances, which depend on the design of the system and the setting. An important work, as we are taking our learnings on collective security forward, is that of Edmola Abbas, Regional Organization and the Development of Collective Security Beyond Chapter 8 of the UN Charter, Hart Publishing, 2004. Dear learners, we all know that the development of collective security was an important aspect with respect to international relations. But at the same time, we cannot even ignore that how when we look at OAC, the NATO, the ECOWAS, the African Union, how there has been development of collective security by regional organizations also after the Cold War also. So, the question that the book raises, which has an important bearing for our learnings also, that what are the legal justifications for these developments, both from within UN Charter and regional treaties and practices. For the use of force by regional organizations on the basis of their members' consent contravenes, or whether it constitutes an exception to the prohibition of use of force or threat under Article 2, Clause 4 of the Charter. An important another work that we take reference to add more to our learnings and insight for the concept of collective security. This work is by Ramesh Thakur, The United Nations, Peace and Security, from Collective Security to the Responsibility to Protect, Cambridge University Press, 2006. Dear learners, when we look at the ambit of UN, No doubt we all know, as the book also points out, that there are transformations, changes with respect to the several United Nations operations. There is a divide herein, as the book reads, with respect to legality and legitimacy. That is, one has to look at the need for importance of rule of law and of rules based order focused on the United Nations as the foundation of a civilized system of transnational relations. There are lots of challenges, for example, the tensions with respect to US and other powers, other aspects of preventing humanitarian atrocities, and above all, the bigger picture of eroded sense of international community, solidarity levels, amongst others. So in this perspective, one has to see that how the concept of collective security also, which has been sacred to the functioning of United Nations, also witnesses challenges. An important work that we get from Arcel Adiani, James and Rosano, Globalization, Security and the Nation State, Paradigms in Transition, from SUNY Press 2012. Now in this book, which is very essential, the very important idea that how the nature of security, how the authority of the nation states are interrelated, because they are contested and are being challenged by a similar process of globalizations. So as one reads through these important inputs presented by the book, that connections between security and global transformation and the corresponding or resulting changes in state structures are very important to be analyzed when we look at relevance of collective security as a concept in global politics now. When we see collective security, one also has to account that how in the past the concept of collective security, as opined by various academic and global realities, has been perceived to be failure. Reading from the analysis by Palmer and Perkins, once again taking from Google search, that how Palmer and Perkins observed that the League of Nations was a complete failure. When we look at very important aspects like the US refusal to join the organization, and how other great powers feared that League's collective strengths might be used against them. So therefore, taking from this perspective by Palmer and Perkins, the criticism against the concept of collective security, namely it has been seen as with idealistic assumptions of looking at the operationalization difficulties, and then how there is an international obligation to join war, and how nations see that somewhere it reduces the space for neutrality. So therefore, dear learners, as we look at the concluding aspect, that when we are looking at collective security, one must take into account that collective security is an important concept in international relations. Today, international relations, as various other realms are being seen, today it is a multidisciplinary, having a multidisciplinary approach, wherein the very idea, the very essence of collective security, guaranteeing the security of each other, of each state, of the world against any war, aggression which may be committed by any state against any other state. So therefore, one has to situate what we say, that if it is an important concept in international relations, today the context of international relations and global realities has changed. In this changing realities, one cannot ignore the new challenges. One has to ensure that today nations want to have a holistic approach towards their aspects of national interest. So therefore, for the issue of collective security also, one has to factor in changing dynamics of the global world. Dear learners, we hope that the lecture on collective security gave you important insights to prepare for your competitive examinations, to prepare for your research, policy papers, amongst other things. We look forward to some positive, encouraging feedback from you all for the lecture. Thank you very much for being with us for the lecture.